Hello, I'm Kerriann. I'm the budget monitor for the language department here on the Cattaraugus territory at the Sully Huff building. Today I am going to be showing you how to make an Indian cookie, and these are what I'm going to be showing you how to make. Learning to bake these cookies or making any type of traditional food, I feel, is important because it's carrying on a tradition not only in your family but within our community and our people. I stumbled upon these cookies when I was young, and it was up in Seneca Nations, and she's not with us anymore, but her name was Sky, and she probably is known for her Indian cookie. She had really good Indian cookies and she put anything in them, and that was my first time I had ever tried it, and my mom was like, "That's an Indian cookie, you know," and I'm like, "An Indian cookie? What is that?" You know, so I tried it and I really liked it, and that stuck with me. Years later, I had to learn how to make them, so I'm like, man, I don't know how to make those. So I dug, and my mom's like, I have a recipe, and here it was Sky's. Making these Indian cookies, it makes me feel good to be able to share it with my daughters or whoever wants to learn. I'm always willing to share that. I'm just trying to bring it back. This recipe right here makes about 3 dozen. Make sure you preheat your oven to 375. In front of me is some of the ingredients that we're going to be using: flour, white sugar, brown sugar, eggs, buttermilk, shortening, which is what I'm going to be using today. You can just use regular butter. We need cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, baking powder, and then I have my handy dandy cookie cutters, biscuit cutters, whatever you want to call them. You're going to start with about 6 or 7 cups of flour, generous cups. And then our baking powder. You're going to do 3 generous tablespoons because you want them nice and fluffy. And then we're going to mix this. Well, I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to grab another bowl, because we're going to do our shortening, and then we're going to do 3 eggs, 1 cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, it can be regular milk, and all you have to do is add a tablespoon of vinegar. Now we're going to add 2 cups of brown sugar, and then a cup of white sugar. We want a tablespoon of vanilla. Okay, we're gonna mix our wet ingredient. Okay, we have that mixed, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be it's a little clumpy from the shortening or butter, whatever you use. We're gonna come back to our dry ingredients, and we're gonna add our cinnamon and our nutmeg. You want to be generous with your cinnamon because that's the flavor that you want in your cookie. Nutmeg is a little stronger than cinnamon, so don't be so generous with your nutmeg. Maybe just 1 tablespoon. We're going to mix that in. And now we're going to add this to our wet ingredients. I would say about half, and then start mixing it. You're just going to kind of fold it all together. And it's going to start to get sticky, which is what you want. You want it to get sticky. Make sure all your flour's in there. That's what you want it to look like. And then we're going to add more flour, a little bit at a time. That's the consistency that it's going to be. It's going to be a little tough, but that's what you want, because when we go to lay it out onto the cutting board, just make sure your surface is clean. And then the rest that I have in the bowl, I'm just going to lay it out onto the cookie sheet. Now, you don't have to measure the raisins. I mean, you can do a cup, but I just eyeball how much I put in there, because you want to make sure each cookie has a couple raisins in it. I'm going to use this one. It's really big, but it's really sturdy. Okay, so it's gonna look like, and now we're gonna lay it out. I'm gonna do about half of the dough. Earlier, I laid the flour onto the cutting board. So this is where you're gonna start working it into like that leftover flour, because you don't want it super sticky when you're rolling it with the rolling pin. So you're just gonna work in that extra flour. You're just gonna fold it back and forth, get that flour into the dough, and then you're gonna want the ball of dough to look like this. So this is what it should look like. And then I'm gonna take my rolling pin, put some flour on it, and you're just gonna roll it out. Now you don't wanna roll it out super flat, but I would say about a half an inch. And then you're gonna take your biscuit cutter, cookie cutter, cup, whatever size you prefer, and you're just gonna go like that. I use parchment paper. It just works really well when you're baking. You can use if you want to grease your cookie sheet, you can. I like parchment paper. That's my preference. That's what you want the cookie to look like before you put it on the sheet. You want to place them on the cookie sheet about an inch apart so that they don't stick. It takes about 10 to 12 minutes depending on how well your oven works. But yeah, typically 12 minutes. That's how long I usually bake them. I want to check them. Okay, yep. So that's what they should look like. This is what you want your finished product to be. They should be like that on the bottom, brown. And then on the inside, they're a little hot, but that's what you want on the inside. I like baking. I do. It's a hobby of mine. Baking is very therapeutic for me. If I'm having a bad day, I'm gonna bake some cookies. Man, that'll make me feel good. And that's what it does. I usually forget what I was frustrated about after I bake. To me, it's healing. Cookies or biscuits or pies, whatever. But I feel like now in 2022, hopefully, more people will bake them. It doesn't have to be for a traditional ceremony. It could just be just because. My name is Kerriann Spruce, and I hope you all enjoyed our Indian cookie making demonstration video today. I would like to thank the Crime Victim Services for having me. I hope you guys all try this recipe, and I hope you all enjoy it. That's all. Eswanga.